Like most of you, I honestly never thought I'd see the day that Hytale was actually a game we could play. But look at us now! I've been playing the game non-stop, and as usual, I have one big question on my mind. What's the lore about?
Does anyone know the lore? Does anyone know that stuff?
If that's the same question you're asking yourself, well, you've come to the right place, because in this video, I'm going to explain everything we know so far about the story of Hytale. First, I'll give you the most straightforward explanation of the game's actual history, the development hell it was stuck in, and the subsequent revival that brought us to where we are today. Then we'll cover the basics. What even is Hytale's world? What are the rules it operates by? What the hell made you, me, and that little tree baby over there? From there, we can get into the fine details of the various races and their histories, their conflicts, and ultimately how they set the stage for you and your kind, the players, to come along to build and destroy your way through the game. If you're enjoying Hytale, punch the like button. And if you or your friends are planning on buying your own copy of the game, use my code NeddyTheNoodle at checkout to support my channel in the process. I really appreciate it. But now let's tell this story, beginning fittingly with where it all started. Alright, so to put the hype of this game into context, and before we get into the meat and potatoes of the lore, allow me to give you the TLDR of Hytale's painfully long development history, and why so many people have been fiending for this game and its release for so many years. It was December 2018. Hypixel releases the announcement trailer for a new game called Hytale. Over the next 7 years, the trailer amassed 62 million views. People were hyped for multiple reasons. It came from a small studio. Hypixel was widely known in the Minecraft community for hosting a huge network of servers. Hytale could prove to be a competitor to Minecraft and actually hold its ground, unlike the countless rip-offs that tried and failed before. And there was a huge focus on modding support and built-in tools made for the community to give them as many resources as possible to craft their own experiences out of the game. They wanted something more than just a game. They wanted to build a platform. In 2020, Hytale was officially acquired by Riot, the massive company that owns titans in gaming like League of Legends and Valorant. Subsequent announcements, mostly as blog posts from the Hytale developers, made it clear that the game would be delayed multiple years and that there was no end in sight. Clearly, a lot of things were going on behind the scenes, a lot of which we don't really know. But one thing was obvious. Delays were abound. Fast forward to June 23rd, 2025. Hypixel Studios' then CEO Noxy Woxy posted a now-deleted blog post that effectively clarified they would be canceling the game, ending development of Hytale and winding down the studio over the subsequent months. But you're probably wondering, why? According to the deleted blog post, Noxy said that the genre was expanding faster than they could keep up with, and the bar kept rising. Our technical ambitions grew more complex, and even after a major reboot of the game engine, the team found that Hytale still wasn't as far along as it needed to be, Noxy said. Considering that was in 2025, you gotta think, damn, this game had been in development for like 6, almost 7 years, yet they had nothing to publicly show for it other than screenshots and a few short clips, and Riot was funding them for most of it? If you were Riot at that point, you'd probably look at the project and say, it's time to stop. And that's what they did. A video by creator Caleb is Salty predicts that Hytale overall had cost as much as $75 million through development. So as far as the project was concerned, surely it was done for good, right? No, actually, because a few days after the cancellation was announced, the original CEO of Hypixel, Simon, stepped up and was like, yeah, I'm gonna buy Hytale back from Riot and release it for everyone. Which he did. And that brings us to January 13, 2026. Hytale just released, and my team and I have been playing it for a good few days, dumping many hours into running around its world and understanding a different story. Not the story of the juggling of development of Hytale, but instead a more fantastical one. This is the story inside of Hytale, and here is... Now that you have an understanding of the game's history, let's go over everything we know about this game's lore. Hytale's form of storytelling is mostly just archaeological. The players discover the lore as they progress and explore in the game, finding pieces inside of structures as well as just by examining the structures themselves. This archaeological lore is accompanied by many item descriptions. There are pieces of a puzzle here, but with the game coming out less than a week ago, it's safe to say that there's a lot we don't know. What we do know is the fundamental rules of the things that exist. The relationship between life and magic is prominent in Hytale's world, which is known as Orbis. Every living being in Orbis seems to be imbued with magic in one way or another. For example, the plants of Orbis drop an item called the Essence of Life. The fish drop Essence of Water. Skeletons, depending on their region, drop the Essence of Fire. Outlanders drop the Essence of Ice, and Void beings drop, can you guess? essence of void. But what do these essences mean? Well, we can reasonably assume that these essences are the physical embodiment of magic itself, giving strength or life to the creatures that they inhabit. On Orbis, there appears to be a spiritual being or goddess that coincides with the world's magic, known as Gaia. For those of you who are Percy Jackson fans, that name might sound familiar. Gaia in our world's Greek mythology is the Earth goddess. Gaia was essentially Mother Earth for us, but what does that mean for Hytale's non-Earth world? We can consider the possibility that the Gaia of Hytale is, instead of the Earth goddess, the Orbis goddess. Gaia is referred to in an official blog post as the Avatar of Orbis, which leads me to believe that Avatar in this context may be adjacent to God or Goddess. Goddess of Earth, Avatar of Orbis. And to those of you getting ahead of me saying, "I'm Mr. NeddyTheNoodle, but my character is called an avatar." Shut up. We're gonna get to that in a bit. Back to Gaia, her statues and temples reside all across Orbis, being seen close to the spawn, in the Forgotten Temple Gateway, in ruins in every zone, and in most of the biomes. In the Forgotten Temple, at the so-called Edge of the Echo, you're met with a sort of Frutiger Arrow landscape, nature and civilization coinciding on a glorious, peaceful sky island. Here, you meet a Quebec and a Klops trader, but you also find the Heart of Orbis. This Heart of Orbis allows you to unlock or collect memories of all living beings. What's important here is the choice of word, memories, as opposed to journal entries or notes. According to the statue, the game tells us this: a faint, disembodied voice can be heard in the presence of this statue, echoes of a being from beyond the barriers, from the original world. The Heart of Orbis statue appears to show Gaia's flowered head in the center, with stone paths adorned by symbols, perhaps showing the different elementals of the world. It seems to be Gaia's voice echoing from the statue, the text mentioning this original world. Speaking of which, when entering an exploration world, which is like the default game mode, the game tells us the following: explore an echo of Orbis, build, craft, survive, and find a way to restore what was lost. From this, we can gather the original world, which Gaia came from and may currently be within, is lost. We, the avatars on our Echoes of Orbis, our own single-player or multiplayer worlds, are trying to return or restore that original world. This opens a whole can of worms that we can get into later, but for now, let's zoom out and explore some other ruins because the Forgotten Temple is just one of many. Back on the Orbis surface, we can look at the ruins scattered around to learn more about non-god people, just everyday folk, or what's left of them. These ruins are primarily inhabited with the skeletons and outlanders, depending on what region you're in. See, these skeletons were not always absent of their flesh. They were once humanoid, and like most humans, they split into different groups across the world, forming different societies in their time. Skeletons reside in every biome, but there was one faction of these former people that lived in a region now filled with fire. These people founded a city called Crucible. Considered to be an advanced society, they were inspired by fire and invented things in its image. According to the crude torch item description, for the last people of Orbis, fire was both a source of creativity that elevated their civilization to new heights, and the force that would ultimately lead to their undoing. The Crucible people used precious metals to manufacture great armor and weapons to aid in their elevation in society. The adamantite ingot tells us more about it. This rare metal was once instrumental to the advancements made by the people of Crucible. Though little remains of the city's former splendor, traces of the resilient ore can still be found in the depths beneath those scorched lands. So by now, you're probably wondering what happened to these Crucible people. Well, two substantial changes occurred before their downfall. First, their society was split in two. Some of the Crucible residents left the city in favor of the Icelands, rebranding themselves as the Outlanders over an unknown disagreement. We know this because of the item description for Essence of Ice, which says, when the Outlanders rejected the flame and split from their brethren, they turned instead towards the colder regions and the fragile strength found in the advanced sheets of ice. The second change to the Crucible people was some kind of a curse they faced. Where the curse originated is up for debate, but the damage it caused to the Crucible people led to their demise. The Cindercloth Scraps item description gives us this little tidbit. When the cursed flame scoured Crucible, it left nothing unchanged. Even these scraps of fabric, salvaged from the charred bones of a former denizen, continued to emit an uncanny heat. So basically, they died. But let's circle back to the ones who left before that happened. Sometime after the Outlanders settled in the icy regions, they found something strange. According to the description of this weird fucking statue called the Statue of the Watcher, the Whispers were not what compelled the Outlanders to settle in these colder lands. Yet it remains an unquestionable fact that when they arrived, the Whispers were already there. What were these Whispers? Echoes of previously slain people? Some demonic presence? Well, we might actually have an answer in the description of the Shadow Weave scraps item type, which says, "This heavy fabric, imbued with a quiet, brooding darkness, was devised by the Outlanders prior to their first communion with the Void. Though still a core component of their garb, the secret of its making has long since been lost." It's reasonable to connect the Whispers that the Outlanders heard to the so-called communion they made with some force known only as the Void. So okay, to recap, the Crucible people died from the Cursed Flame, and the Outlanders, the ones who split off from them before that, succumbed to the Void. So both groups basically perished one way or another. But speaking of groups perishing, and before we really talk about whatever the hell the Void really is, we should examine the other players on the court, aka the other sentient life on Orbis. All living beings have a little magic in them, but only a few of them are what we can assume to be sentient beings. They're the Pharans, Scarak, Klops, Trorks, Quebecs, Goblins, and the Avatars. But what do we know about them? Well, the Pharans are an anthropomorphic fox-like species that resides primarily in the desert regions of Orbis. While they may look soft and cuddly, straight out of a furcon, they are a ferocious species that battles great evils in the name of freedom. I've become so much like Eren Yeager, it's scary. This Orbis fragment gives us the context to their determination. A Pharan values freedom above all else, and nowhere is that freedom embodied more than in the winds of Windrider Valley. The Pharan's thirst for freedom is likely the fuel for the long beef we learn that they have with another species. Said beef is mentioned in the thorium ingot description. While Pharans do not themselves make use of this metal, they keep a vigilant watch over its deposits in the sun-scorched deserts and arid badlands. Should their age-old enemies rise once more, these reserves would be the first they sought to harvest. So who exactly are the Pharans' age-old enemies? We can reasonably assume that the enemies in question are none other than the Scaraks. But allow me to explain my thought process. The Pharans and the Scaraks are both residents of the arid desert regions, making the territory a point of contention between the two. The Scaraks are a hornet-like species that once lived under an empress and are said to have committed unknown atrocities, as described by the description of the statue of the founding builder. Listen to this. Long since forgotten by the fallen Scaraks, some few statues of the founding builder still stand in their oldest ruins. The few explorers who have since stumbled upon them speak only of an emanating sense of disappointment and disapproval, as if the stone itself is stained by its silent witness of the atrocities committed under the first and last Scarak Empress. The Scarak Empress and their buggy people are the most monster-adjacent sentient species that we know of so far and are highly aggressive, at least to the avatars. While the statue of the founding builder doesn't inherently state who was the subject of these atrocities, I think the proximity to the only other sentient species of their biome is implication enough for their feud. So to conclude the sand beef, Pharans and Scaraks really don't like each other. Probably. While we don't have much to go off of when it comes to the Scaraks, the Quebecs are a race that give us plenty. Plus they're cute. The Quebecs can be found in the Forgotten Temple and across the forests of Orbis. Making homes in the large trees, their society participates in agriculture, cooking, trade, taming wildlife, and educating their young. These cute little dudes come in different sizes as well. Seedling, sproutling, sapling, and the rootling. The Quebecs will even let you rob their chests. They don't even react. Reminds me of another villager society. The only thing that can make a Quebec turn on you is by brandishing a hatchet in their presence. Though the Quebecs have some complex feelings towards other cultures that use wood, which we can learn about in the description of the crude hatchet. The Quebecs acknowledge that some cultures require wood as a resource. As long as you avoid entering their woodlands with such a blade bared, it's unlikely they'll ever bring it up. The Quebecs love trees, the material they're made of, but respect other people's cultures that use it. Big W. Now, on the other hand, the goblins have about as much respect for other species as they have for life itself, which is none. They don't respect shit. The only thing the goblins care for is the piles of riches that they hoard in their dens. In the depths of the caves, you might be so lucky to see the heaps of treasure with the mighty Goblin Duke sitting on his royal throne. While some may shy away from the caves because of this, the goblins have one fatal flaw that prevents them from being a species you should take too seriously. The crude pickaxe makes that painfully clear. All that stands between the Goblin Dukes and the total domination of the underground regions is that they have yet to understand what this tool is. Anyone able to actually use pickaxes facilitates the balance of the underground by keeping those goblins in check. But the goblins aren't the only goobers obsessed with material possession. Similar to the goblins, the Trorks, yes, you heard that right, Trorks, instead of being hungry for shiny things, simply are hungry for food. The Trorks, as far as I can tell, are living in the Stone Age, while having made some minor technological advancements like using tools and traps. They're just angry dudes, and that's about most of what we know about them. The last major species to mention is perhaps the one we know the most about, but more intuitively than anything, mainly because it's what we are. Oh yeah, I'm talking about you, the avatars. So you and all your kin, the players, are known as avatars. Rejoice! You know what you are. If you're like me, you may be wondering where you, the player, comes into play. How do you factor into the lore through your actual gameplay? Well, here's what we know. When your avatar spawns into a freshly created new world for the very first time, you get a message on the screen that says you've entered the first gate of the Echo. As we've already explained before, our worlds in the Explorer mode seem to be echoes of Orbis, duplicates, parodies, or children, descendants of some kind of the original world. Your goal is to proceed, push forward, and seemingly to find the original world. You, an avatar, are perhaps a god, or maybe a god in training as we hinted at when talking about Gaia earlier. With Gaia MIA, perhaps you were spawned here to follow in her footsteps and ascend yourself. You'll do that by acquiring different tiers of metals, building stronger and admittedly cooler looking armor and weapons, and by forging your unique path through the Echo. Along the way, you may do it by yourself, or with some other avatars, which can result in all kinds of shit.
They're like little fucking yellow blobs now. Like you might. Hey, no!
What did you do to my? What the fuck?
Crouch jump in this corner and then like let go crouch.
Bro!
This is the workbench of sending me off the server.
What the fuck?
It doesn't send you guys to the gulag.
No, I can open it. What happens when you open it?
It gets
Bro!
This game sucks!
Okay, we got the clip. We can stop acting now.
Though eventually, you'll start to wonder, what's the goal? What am I trying to face beyond basic survival? Should I build a giant hole to push my friends into? Some people might do that, definitely not us.
Hit me normal.
Okay,
Oh, yeah,
that's
there
the
we
strat. Hey boy, how did you get here so fast?
I died.
Oh.
That'll do it.
Shit.
Dude, check this out.
Dude, look at our fucking beautiful work.
Oh.
Well, we didn't even need to hit that hole.
We've been plotting to kick you into this hole.
Is that why you asked me to get on to wear armor?
Yeah, but hold on, wait, but wait, listen. We gotta fucking show Riley. Oh, yeah, just look down there.
Oh wow. What?
You fucked it!
Fuck!
Hit him
You know
down
what?
there is funny enough.
I'll sacrifice myself.
Bro, we got two
me too.
double side, triple side, quadruple.
Beyond committing unfathomably evil acts against your loved ones, if you're taking the game seriously and looking for a culprit, a big bad that we as players should strive to work towards fighting, well, that's where most of us are all probably looking at one thing: the Void. It's about now when we can put the pieces together and realize what Hytale is actually about. And it's all revealed in the text from the ancient gateway, which says, though the curse keeps Gaia's Orbis locked away, there are ways to pierce the void that veils it. So that's it. It's just like we thought. Gaia's Orbis is the original world, and the thing preventing us from reaching it is the void which hides it. So our goal, as the avatars in our own echoes of Orbis, is to play through the game, progress through tiers, get stronger, explore what we can, and defeat any deadly denizens who get in our way as we work to pierce the void. So let's do it, let's pierce the void! Oh, I don't think that's in the game yet.
Well, that's awkward.
In due time, we'll find out more, but that covers what we know about the lore of Hytale. It's definitely got me asking a lot of questions, like, what is Mommy Gaia doing? What's the Void trying to accomplish? What will we learn in the adventure mode, if that ever comes out? And outside the scope of the game itself, how is Hytale going to change up the current block game meta now that it's joined the table alongside Minecraft and Vintage Story? Well, we'll just have to see. What are your thoughts on Hytale? Let me know in the comments below. If you're looking for a Hytale family of your own, come join my community Discord and Hytale server. If you plan on buying the game, be sure to use my code NeddyTheNoodle at checkout to support future Hytale content like this. I hope you liked this coverage of the lore of the game so far, and I'm looking forward to what they add next, especially in the eventual adventure mode. I want to give a big thanks to my patrons and YouTube members for supporting the channel. Thanks, guys. And just click on one of these videos. You can do it. Do it, please. Do it quick. Oh, fuck. Is that a bear? Ah! Ah!